Hello dear students, I am Dr. Sanjay Pagar, Associate Professor, Department of Geography. Dear student, I welcome all of you in this online lecture series on behalf of Maratha Vidya Prasarak Samajas, Charity Arts, BH Commerce and AM Science, popularly known as KTHM College Nasik. Dear student, this is our S.Y.B.Sc class of Geography, that is Geography of our first Environmental Geography. Dear student, in this lecture, we are going to discuss our chapter number 3. This is our lecture number 24 and we are going to discuss very important subtopic of the third chapter, that is major environmental problem in India, causes and effects with respect to the loss of biodiversity. Dear student, in previous lecture, we have already discussed detailed information about measure of conservation of biodiversity. And dear student, for today's lecture, we have a very simple objective, that is study objective is to discuss the loss of biodiversity in India. Actually, we already discussed the term biodiversity, but let us revise once again. The biodiversity is defined as variability among living organisms of all ecosystems, that is diversity within the species. The term biodiversity often used to mean the total number of species living in an ecosystem over the earth. The whole life on the earth comprise the biodiversity of the earth. It may be the plants, birds, animal or microorganisms that we observe on the surface. All these things are included in the biodiversity, and we have India is one of the very important country in the world which have a mega diversity. Therefore, India is known as a mega diversity, diverse country in the world. Actually, India have just 2% of the world land mass, but it is a home of 8% of biodiversity, world's biodiversity. That is very important characteristic about the India. Near about 7% of the total animal species of the world we observe in India. And India is also known for, and India also have 89,500 species, in which more than 5,150 species of plants, 16,214 species of insects, the 44 species of the mammals, and 45 of the birds, and 162 the reptiles, and 121 of amphibians. So these things are very important about the biodiversity that we have observed in India. That is the important things. And one thing is also very important. The out of 100, near about in India, we have 7.6% of the all mammals that we observe in India. So this is also other important feature with respect to the biodiversity that we have in India. And one thing is other, out of 100, 6.2% of the all reptiles we observe in India. And one other thing that the 4% of the all the amphibians, 11.7 all the fish, and 6% of the flowering plant species out of birds we have in India. So therefore, these statistics indicate that India have a very good biodiversity with respect to the worlds, and therefore we have to conserve it. But unfortunately, we are not able to conserving all this biodiversity at a good level. If we are talking about the India, in India we have two important spots that contain the biodiversity. The first is the Himalaya. Here you can see the Himalaya, and second is the Western Ghat. This and third is also northeastern part of the India also have a biodiversity, great biodiversity. But the North Himalayan area and the Western Ghat are these two spots are very important with respect to the biodiversity in India. But in this area also we are observing the biodiversity is deflating very fastly. These two recognize the hotspot with respect to the very rich diversity in India. India is also the home of 12% world's bird species that we have observed in India. India is the home of nearly half of the world aquatic plants. This is a very important feature about India. About 7,000 aquatic species are found in India, which do not found anywhere in the India. See, I repeat again, near about the 7,000 species that we have in India that are only we observe in India. There is no such type of the places we observe rest part of the world. So in with respect to the biodiversity of India, this statement is very important. Then India has 48 tiger reserves and 32 elephants reserves. India has 102 national parks and 515 wild sanctuaries. So this is also very important part related to the India. Dear student, the Western Ghat is found most threatening part in India. Here, the biodiversity is depleting very fastly due to the various reasons that we are going to discuss later. But just keep in your mind that this is the very important point that we have to keep in mind, that the Western Ghat is the area where the biodiversity is depleting very fastly. About 10% of the recorded flora and more than its the wild fauna are found in listed threatened species that we have in India. As per the wild fauna, 80 species of the mammals, 47 species of the birds, 15 species of the reptiles, 3 species of the amphibians, and many species of the butterflies and beetles are indigenous. Indigenous means what? They are going to exist within few years if we are not conserve them properly. So this is also very important point that we keep in our mind. So dear student, one thing I would like to mention here, that especially cheetahs and pink-headed duck are no more in India. It means these species we are not going to see in India. So this is a really this is a very negative impact we observe in India with respect to the loss of biodiversity. These things are very important, as if you want to preserve the biodiversity in India, so we have to protect this type of the things. But unfortunately, like a cheetah or like a pink-headed duck, we don't see in India. So that is very important thing that we have to keep in our mind. So what are the reasons that we observe behind the loss of biodiversity at a great extent in India? The first thing is that the forest fire. Yes, this is very important causes. Whatever the various type of the research activities carried out in India, the studies indicate that the most of the forest area is destroyed due to the forest fire. It may be man-made, it may be thing or maybe natural thing, but when the forest fire happen, that time there is too much damage of forest area, and also whatever the species we have in the available in that area, that also disturb or destroy in this forest. Therefore, this is a very important causes in India, especially in Western Ghat. We observe this type of the events repeatedly again and again. So therefore, we have to do anything, so the good measures to protect this type of the events in India that should not be damaged to the biodiversity. Second thing, the natural calamity. Yes, natural calamity is also very important causes behind the loss of biodiversity in India. Actually, we don't have any control on the natural calamities like a flood, drought, volcano eruption, landslide, or earthquake, or flood. These all things are naturally, but when these things are rapidly repeat again and again, that time what happened? We lost our lot of biodiversity. Therefore, this is also important causes we observe with respect to India when we study the loss of biodiversity. Third important reason is diseases. The disease is also very important reason that cause the loss of biodiversity in India. The widespread occurrence of the disease can be wipe out the large number of plant and animal. Especially, I am talking about the Western Ghat and Northeastern India. This is the part where, due to this reason, there is a great loss in biodiversity we observe. So these are the natural things, but there are few man-made reasons also. They are responsible for loss of biodiversity in India, especially over exploitation of the bioresources. Yes, human being would like to fulfill his various needs, and that time to fulfill his various needs, he use the lot of resources that are available inside the country. Especially when we use the these resources for the commercial purpose, that time they destroy on large scale. So therefore, in human being, you know that in India the population is growing very fastly. It was very close. It was within few years it was double, and now we have the population of India near about 132 crore, and shortly we are maybe overtake the China also. Therefore, this is the very important causes that when the population is growing, that time there is a extension of the settlement and the expansion of the roads, then the projects and the various things, and for that purpose we destroy the forest, and indirectly or directly we damage the biodiversity of India. So therefore, this is the very important to fulfill the various needs of the human being. In India, we are overexploit the various type of the resources, and due to that there is a great loss in the biodiversity. And in India we observe smuggling is also very important things that we observe in India. So when this, due to this action or this activity, the lot of directly or indirectly we damage the biodiversity. Especially I am talking about the smuggling is doing for the sandalwood or the skin of the certain animal like snake and deers and lions and elephants and lot of things. So in this process, for smuggling purpose, they are doing the hunting, they are damage the forest, and therefore when these do this activity for the smuggling purpose, that time that also negatively affect on the biodiversity, and therefore they are responsible to decline the biodiversity in India. So therefore this is also very important. And next one is the very important causes behind the loss of biodiversity in India. Especially I am talking about deforestation. Deforestation is the process in which we clear all the forest land at particular area. So when we do this activity, that area under forest is declining in India day by day. Before some year it was near about 28%, but now as per the latest statistics, India have only area under forest is 21.67%. Actually, ecologically we require at least 33% area, forest area should be under forest, but unfortunately we are very less that expected figures. When we carried out the deforestation activity by the various purpose, it may be the expansion of the, what you can say, the city area, urbanization, industrialization, settlement, and all that various purpose, we bring the area, what was the area was the under the forest, that we clear the forest, and that area we use for the various purpose. And therefore this is a very important reason that responsible to loss of biodiversity in India. Next one is that the biotic interference. The interference is very important. That yes, I just mentioned that when the human being carried out the various economic activity or to fulfill his various human needs, that time he directly or indirectly use the resources of the natural resources that are available within the country. It may be plants, it may be animal, or maybe the other biotic factor. So due to there is interaction between man and environment, and in that process, yes, there is a damage, that there is always damage on the environment through the various process I just mentioned about the industrialization, urbanization, road expansion, and commercial various activity, or maybe the modern agriculture. All these things are directly or indirectly responsible for loss of biodiversity in India. So this is also very important reason. The next one, there habitat loss and degradations. This is also very important. I just mentioned that in just one research activity was carried out, and in one article they mentioned that India's tropical forest is disappearing at the rate of 0.6% per year. This is a very important thing that we have keep in our mind, that if you continue in next year or the further few years, then definitely we will lose lot of biodiversity that we have in India. So this is also very important, because when the habitat is lost, then that directly affect or negative effect on the loss of biodiversity. Species extinction rate said it to be the 1000 species per year. This is also very important statement about the loss of biodiversity in India. Dear student, next is very important, habitat fragmentation. You know that what is habitat fragmentation? The breaking of the stretches of the habitat into the smaller pieces of the unit or isolated fragment is known as the habitat fragmentation. See in this picture, you can clearly see here we have a small patch of the forest. Here also we have the small patch of forest. Here also we have the small patch. This process is not actually this area, whole area was under the forest, but due to the human interference, human activity, this area is clear, and now we have only few patches are remain here. But when this type of the process happened, that natural habitat which was very favorable for the flourish the biodiversity in the area, but when that forest area is changed into the small pieces, or just I mentioned that habitat fragmentation is happening in that area, that time it directly impact on the biodiversity, because there is no natural habitat is available for the various species. It may be animal, birds, or maybe the other biotic factor. When their natural habitat is disturbed, that time they due to the human activity, when the whole area is, or maybe this environment is disturbed, that time the directly impact on the loss of biodiversity in that particular area. So this is also very important thing. And other few reason or causes that I would like to mention here: the pollution, the soil pollution, water pollution, air pollution. These three pollution of that, or maybe the solid pollution, or maybe the other pollution, each and every pollution is directly affect on the loss of biodiversity at some extent. And when we know that there are, especially I'm talking of the Western Ghat and Himalayan region, there due to the such type of the pollution, there is a great threat or direct impact on the loss of biodiversity in that particular area. So therefore, with respect to the loss of biodiversity in India, this region is also very important, especially that ecosystem that available inside the pond, river, or maybe dam, aquatic ecosystem that called as aquatic system. In that aquatic ecosystem, due to the water pollution, that whole ecosystem is disturbed, and few of them, it may be some consumer or maybe the microorganism is also suffering from due to the or you can say the water pollution. So therefore, when the water is polluted too much beyond the limit, that time that a few species of that water definitely going to destroy. So therefore, this is also very important reason. Urbanization, I just mentioned that in India, the urbanization is growing very fastly as compared to the rest part of the world. You know that the most of the city, it may be Nasik, Mumbai, Pune, Delhi, Chandigarh, Chennai, Kolkata, Indore, all the cities are expanding very fastly, rapidly, and when that area is started to expand of any city, that time they occupy the area that was maybe was the under the forest, that was forest area is converted into the non-forest area for the various purpose. So when the urbanization increase in any area, I am talking about the especially in Western Ghat. In Western Ghat, we have observing this type of the process is growing very rapidly. Therefore, when the urbanization is growing rapidly, that time the area under forest is going to decrease, and when the area is under forest is going to decrease, that time directly that affect the natural habitat of that particular species. It may be birds, it may be animal. So therefore, there is a negative impact, and then there we observe the negative relationship between urbanization and the area under the forest. When the urbanization is increased, that time area under forest is decreased, and when the area under forest decrease, that time definitely it impact on the loss of biodiversity that particularly available in that area. So therefore, other reason is also very important. Maybe tourism, system agriculture, and other maybe the reason they are responsible to disturb, to destroy, or to deflate the biodiversity that are available in India. Dear student, this was about the causes of the loss of biodiversity in India. Now let us discuss the effects of loss of biodiversity in India. Actually, in previous lecture, we already discussed this point at a global level. But here, In this point, we are going to discuss this point with respect to the only India. Let us see the first effect on the livelihood of the people. Yes, in India, it may be the Himalayan region, it may be northeastern India, maybe the Western Ghat region. Here, most of the tribal people are fulfill their various needs on this biodiversity. It may be plants, animal, and maybe the other things. But when there is a great loss in biodiversity, that time these people are suffering, because when the, for example, if the area under forest is decreased due to the various human activity, that time what will happen? When the area under forest decrease, that time the more you know that most of the people, especially tribal people, are fulfill their various need by using the byproduct of the forest, or maybe their various activity, or maybe the economic activity are directly depend on the forest. But when there is a great loss of biodiversity, there is great loss in the area under forest, that time these people are not able to fulfill their livelihood, or even they are not able to earn through their various economic activity that are directly depend on these species, or maybe these trees. So therefore, this is a very important. Now these people are migrate toward the city area or the urban area, and here you know that when the such type of the things, therefore they directly lead to the slum area that are increasing in the urban area. So this is a very important negative effect that we observe of loss of biodiversity in India. Especially I am talking about the tribal area that have the naturally have a good forest area, but when there is a loss of biodiversity, definitely the area under forest decrease, the number of species of the various animal or maybe the species are decreased. So therefore, this is the important thing. Economic loss of an industry. This is a very important thing that we observe with respect to India. You know that in India, the most of the industry, directly or indirectly, they depend for their raw material supply from this biodiversity. It may be forest, maybe animal byproduct, or maybe the other things. So when the area under forest decrease, there is a great loss in the biodiversity. That time, this industry are not able to get their properly raw material from this forest or from this biodiversity. Therefore, when there is a great biodiversity loss, and then it lead to the shortage of the raw material for the various industry. So therefore, this is also when the industries are not able to get the regular supply of the raw material or their final product. That time, sometimes they have to close. They have to minimize their working hours, and that it directly effect on their earning, or maybe you can say that there is a great loss of economic loss of that industry that we observe in India. The next thing is the deflation of the biodiversity. I'm not going to discuss the detail about, but you just see in India over the 12% of wild mammals and 3% of birds that are destroyed. That we don't observe this type of the things due to the depletion of biodiversity. This is the very important thing that you have to keep in mind. Near about 3% of birds of India is depleted in India. So it may be we are not going to see again. It may be possible after a few years. Numbers of the wild animals or the birds, which we just going to see only in the picture. Actually, they were in India. Nowadays also they are present. But if such type of the activities continuous human activity that damage the biodiversity in India, definitely in next generation are not going to see this real animal in by their eyes. They have to see this animal or the birds only in the picture. So that is very important things. We have to conserve our great biodiversity. Effect on the ecosystem. It may be terrestrial ecosystem or the aquatic ecosystem. In that ecosystem, definitely when this biodiversity is destroyed, that time that directly affect on the ecological balance or the environmental balance of that particular ecosystem. You know that there is a continuous chain from the producer, consumer, and the decomposer. But when in the chain, if any producer or the consumer is destroyed, that affect their next path of the function of the ecosystem. Therefore, everywhere, it may be the Western Ghat, it may be the North Himalaya or the Northeast India, everywhere this due to the loss of biodiversity, whole ecosystem, it may be terrestrial ecosystem or the aquatic ecosystem, all ecosystems affected due to the loss of biodiversity that we observe in India. The climate change is also very important things. So you know that the most of the ecological balance or the environmental balance or work for the function of the hydrological cycle is totally depend on the biodiversity, or maybe you consider ecological balance. If the ecological balance is good, then definitely there is a normal environment you will observe. It may be rainfall, temperature, or maybe everything will be normal. But when this biodiversity is disturbed, ecological balance is disturbed, there is always global warming. The temperature is going to rise, and in the other hand, the rainfall is going to decrease. So therefore, when there is a loss in biodiversity, definitely we observe the climate change through the various events. It may be the frequency of the flood, frequency of the what you can say the drought, or the frequency of the increase in the average temperature of the year. So these all things are very common we observe in India. The next one is loss of the beauty of the nature. Yes, dear student, this is a really good thing. What we think, the beauty of the nature is totally depend on the biodiversity. If you have the good biodiversity, then definitely beauty of the nature will sustain. But if we destroy the biodiversity, definitely we are not going to see the beauty of the nature. Especially the tourism activity is totally depend on this beauty of the nature. But unfortunately, we are not protecting beauty of the nature in India. And when the loss of biodiversity happen, definitely that disturb the natural beauty of the nature. Therefore, this is also very important thing. I am talking about we have the very great or the natural beauty at the Himalayan region in the Western Ghats. Unfortunately, we are not able to protect them, and therefore it's lost very fastly and disturb the life of the wild animal. You know that near every city you observe that thing. It may be Pune, Nasik, Mumbai. The wild animals are entering the city area. Why? Because they don't have the natural habitat remain to survival. Therefore, they to search the new area, they travel from the forest area to other area. And unfortunately, they enter in the city area. And you know that when they enter the city area, that time they lost their livelihoods. And therefore, this is also very important negative effect we observe with respect to the loss of biodiversity in India. And the many other things related to the animals, birds, or you can see the forest, various species, crops, everywhere. It may be the aquatic animal or maybe the other terrestrial, everywhere we observe loss of biodiversity. So therefore, it is very important to protect our biodiversity in India, and for that purpose, the government, the society, at individual level, we have to do a various measures that we already discussed in the last lecture, that we have to repeat again. We are not going to repeat again discussion, but just keep in mind, it is our personal duty that we try to protect our biodiversity and educate the people biodiversity, avoid the loss of biodiversity, and try to plant more and more trees. Try to bring area as much as area possible under the forest. Definitely, when the area under forest increase, that time it may be due to the plantation or the area's activity. If we able to do that, then definitely that the great biodiversity that we have in India, that we can preserve, and we hand over to next generation to take the whatever the benefits of this biodiversity. Okay, student, this was about today's lecture. In next lecture, we are going to discuss other environmental problem of India related to the pollution in detail. Thank you.